Hello, my name is Dr. Tara Sky Golden. I'm a naturopathic doctor and I practice in Boulder, Colorado. And I also work long distance with a lot of my patients who live elsewhere and doing consulting work for their health. And I want to talk today about when you're feeling so exhausted that you're just feeling like you've totally bottomed out. So that's an important thing to that happens to a lot of people. You know, many of us, including myself, have at times just kind of like had an energy crash, you know, at different times of our life. For me, my worst one was after I finished, ironically, I finished naturopathic medical school. And you know, it was 4 years of intensity and I was studying for my boards and there was just stress all the time. You know, like any medical school, somehow we have this idea that naturopathic medical school would be less stressful than like any other kind of medical school, but that's just not true. It's all stressful. And at that time, you know, after being on sustained overload, like, you know, after a while, I just had a crash. And it took a while to kind of dig myself out of that crash. I'm 30 years out of school now. It's hard to believe, but that's a very common thing that after someone's been through sustained stress, they have a crash. And there are ways to heal from that. And what happens is, you know, when you're, if you're relatively healthy and you're under stress, your adrenal glands, your hypothalamic pituitary glands will signal your adrenals to put out more of a increased quantities of a hormone called cortisol. And cortisol is what is pumped out when we're in fight, flight, freeze. And this is a very ancient pattern for humans and all animals. All animals really put out cortisol when they're under stress. Cortisol is a very useful hormone. It causes you to pump out more, pump blood faster, get more, breathe harder so that you oxygenate your muscles, get blood to those muscles so that you can like outrun a predator. It's very important. It helped our species and other species survive. The damaging thing is that, you know, nowadays we have, with modern stresses, we put out cortisol for more psychological reasons like financial stress or deadline stress or rushing or, you know, being late or, you know, relational stress causes us to put out more cortisol. So what happens is, you know, it's kind of like in the beginning when you're, or, you know, if you're relatively healthy and you're dealing with stress, you'll put out the cortisol and it'll cause you to like be able to function and, you know, be able to stay up late and, you know, do that work project, hit that deadline, pick up your kids, make dinner, do the laundry, keep the house clean, you know, all the things that we have to do in daily life, you know, take that test if you're a student. And then eventually what happens is your adrenals can't keep up. And eventually it's like trying to, you know, charge a dead battery. There's nothing left. You're flat, you're flattened out. And then you're not putting out enough cortisol. And that's when people are just like, they don't care, or, you know, they drink coffee and they can go to sleep. Coffee kind of temporarily with caffeine boosts the energy. So people hit the caffeine, they're like, oh yeah, I can do anything. And then like after a while they're drinking caffeine and nothing happens. You know, they need more and more caffeine just to get that energy level. And then they're like fatigued, they're crashed out. And then what happens if that keeps going many years is that your thyroid will crash. So, you know, and then your thyroid tanks, and then all of a sudden you can't lose weight, or you can't, you know, you used to be able to maintain a weight and eat a normal amount of food for you. And all of a sudden you're eating same amount of food or eating even less, and you can't gain weight, or you're just like, your skin's dry, or you're depressed, and you just can't get going. Everything is just like you're just crashed, you're fatigued, and you don't have the energy that you need to meet your goal, your obligations. So that's when often people show up in my practice. And what I like to do is I like to check all the thyroid hormones. I like to check the cortisol levels to see if you're too high or too low, because based upon where they are, I'm gonna formulate a treatment plan. Do I need to, do I need to something to nourish the adrenals, or is it pumping out too much and I need it to kind of chill out? So a lot of that depends upon what comes out in those results. But it's, elevated cortisols can cause a lot of problems. They can cause people to actually gain weight. It can cause people to, crave sugar. It can cause people to not sleep, which, as I've mentioned in other talks, can have a pretty big effect on the immune system, on your cardiovascular system, on your blood sugar regulation. So it's important that your adrenal glands are functioning properly, and it's important that your thyroid glands are functioning properly. Often people, when they're hypothyroid, they're like, they can't find a word. Their brain isn't moving as fast as they like it to. That you're talking to them and they're just like, I've been in that state myself, just totally thyroid not functioning. So, they definitely need to be corrected. So all that is super important. So if you're under a period of stress, it's important that you support the hypothalamic pituitary axis, which helps us get through our days of dealing with chronic stresses. So it's important that all that stuff gets supported. It's important that we sleep enough. It's important that we eat well. It's important that we eat enough protein, that we don't just get on a sugar and caffeine cycle. And it's important that if you've been going for years and all of a sudden you just can't anymore, that you allow yourself to rest and recover. Because you're really nobody can sustain that kind of push all the time. So anyway, if you would like my support to help your hypothalamic pituitary axis, your adrenal glands, your thyroid glands to function more optimally, I'd be happy to talk to you about it some more. You can schedule a free 15-minute phone consult on my website under book an appointment, and I'd happy to talk to you one-on-one about how I might be able to help you. All right, have a great day. I will talk to you soon.